Hey everyone, welcome back to 20s Decoded, the podcast where we discuss everything that relates to living in your 20s. It can be personal life. We also love to talk about health, finances, and we really want to relate to what you're living in your 20s because we are actually living in our 20s as well. I'm Penelope and I'm joined by my co host Arjun. Hey Arjun, how are
Good,
you?
Penelope. How are you doing today?
Amazing. It's my first day of PTO today, so I'm enjoying my
Awesome.
time off. What about you?
I'm happy that it's sunny outside. It's beautiful, and I can't wait to go outside after this podcast and soak in the sun finally.
Yeah, getting
Yeah.
the vitamin D. That's amazing.
Do you have any plans for your PTO, Penelope, at all?
Yeah, so my mom is coming from France, and so we're just gonna hang out in the Bay Area, see some family, some friends. So it's gonna be fun. I'm
Sounds
really
really
looking forward to
exciting.
it.
So why don't we go ahead and get started? And today our topic is investing actually, and just not only investing but budgeting as well. We will be discussing about how like you will be getting your first paycheck and what to do exactly with the money that you're getting in, right? Speaking from my own personal experience, I did not have a full-time job until till my first job right out of grad school. And personally, me like seeing that paycheck coming in to your bank account is like, oh my God, wow, I have this amount of money. What am I gonna do with it? I can literally buy anything I want to. I can do whatever I want to. And it was kind of like a shock factor for me. I was genuinely confused to like what am I supposed to do with this money? Am I supposed to spend X amount on this or percentage of this or on that? How about yourself, Penelope? Were you in the same exact boat as me, or were you a little bit more knowledgeable on what to do?
No, I completely relate with you. And I think that what's interesting is that so you get your first paycheck and you see like the amount on the paycheck, but you also have your student debts. You have like a lot of money that's in fact this money is not really yours until you pay off your student debt or like whatever things that you need to pay. And so I think that there is like really this discrepancy in your mind between oh my god, I'm working, I have money, I can just do whatever I want, quote unquote, but you also have some responsibilities, the responsibilities either to your parents or to the bank or whatever. And so balancing like this thing with just I want to have fun with my money, but I also have some liabilities that I want to just make sure that I'm not doing anything wrong with it. So we are gonna be discussing that, how you can balance uh like your savings, your wants, your needs,
Yeah.
and so on.
Coming right out like getting that first paycheck in hand is like truly a magical experience. Seeing like you have hard earned money in your hands and you literally can do whatever the hell you want to, right? But figuring out where to go is like the first big step. Like Penelope, you said before, having student loan debt or having commitments to your parents or just in general, like other stuff like retirement accounts, stuff like that is like truly like hard to figure out in that first stage. I did like personally me, I did take a financial lit course back in high school, but I don't think high school was the best time to take it because what, like 4 years of undergrad went by and then I had my 1 year of grad school and I truly did not know what to do with my money. It was 5 years flew by and I had no from since I took that course and I had no knowledge of what to do. So like I do want to clarify this that we're both not financial experts when it comes down to how you should be investing your money or managing your money. We'll be just talking about our own experiences and how we think that like the best practices to manage your money and budgeting. So yeah. So Penelope, when you first got your first paycheck, or like let's go with like when you first realized like oh shoot like I have all these commitments to make and these loans to pay off, like when was that realization factor for you?
Yeah, so it was basically when I moved to the US. Because when I moved to the US, I had to take a loan from France in order to pay for grad school. And then I was also teaching assistant, so I was earning a little bit of money. It was nothing compared to like the amount of money I was actually paying to the school. But anyway, I still had this thing with, so I had an influx of money and then like a flow of money out of my bank account. And so that's why I think that what really saved me, quote unquote, was to track my spendings and and what I was earning, so that I could have on a monthly basis an idea about how much I was actually at that time spending, because the balance was negative because of the of graduate school. But afterwards, when I first got my first job, thank God the balance was not negative anymore. It was rather positive, but just the idea of tracking, and you have many apps or just like spreadsheets that you can find very easily on the internet. We can maybe link some of those in the show notes. But I would say that yes, the first step is to I was tracking my spending and my earnings. What about you?
Yeah, so for me, the realization factor actually came in not out in my first job, but my second job when we first started at our current company. I kind of went in with the concept. I grew up in a very conservative household where we would save a lot more of our money and spend a lot less. And so the philosophy that I had adopted and when I was making my paychecks was that like a good 30 to 40% of my paychecks would be actually saved, and the rest of it would either go to rent or to investing or to um, any fund that I wanted to have. So I fortunately and unfortunately for me, right when I finished grad school was around September of 2019, and they usually give you a 6 month gap in terms of starting to pay back your loans. You're kind of in that period where you have time to accumulate some money and then start paying off your loans in 6 months after September would be February, right? And fortunately for me, or fortunately and unfortunately, the pandemic had began at that time, and loans were put on a pause. So I truly did not have like an understanding of how much is truly I have to truly pay off until I started my job with you actually. So when it came down to it, I started budgeting myself through an Excel. Like Penelope, you said, right? There are apps and you can use a spreadsheet to manage it. Personally, me, I like to manage things through an Excel document to figure out how much I am going to be spending towards loans or how much I'm investing and how much can I allot for fun. And a general rule of thumb that I have personally found to be very helpful for me, and I've done a lot of research into this, and a lot of people follow this technique, that is the 50/30/20 rule, where you spend 50% on the needs like food, rent, like transportation, stuff like that. 30% is spent on wants, like a gym membership or like clothing and stuff like that. And then the rest of the 20% is actually given into your savings or paying off debt. So I personally like following this method. And obviously, it doesn't have to be very strict where you can give yourself 5 or 10% more in a certain category compared to the other, but these are the rules that I tend to follow, and I've seen the most success out of it in terms of not only paying off my loans, but in terms of living a balanced lifestyle where I don't exceed myself. If I don't exceed my what I can spend.
Yeah, I agree. I also follow this rule, but I mean, I did not know that I was following this rule until I actually looked at the percentages, and I was just like, oh yeah. In fact, it corresponds more or less to this rule. But my for the savings part, up until yeah, let's say 1 year ago, I was not really like actively investing with a strategy. No, I am, but it was still like 20% saving on average. So that's interesting. I think that another maybe crucial point that was, at least for me, was to get the knowledge of what's an emergency fund, because it's basically when you, let's say you lose your job, you need to have a cushion of money that you can rely on for, I don't know, paying your rent, buying some food, and also just to enjoy life a little bit, because it's not because you lose your job that you have to stay in your room and do nothing. um so having an emergency fund, which for me is around like 4 months of living expenses, including like wants, needs, and savings. um so it's the rule of thumb that I use for that. So I have that in my bank, in my bank account, and I know that I need in my bank account to have at least this emergency fund
You're
just in case.
absolutely right. From I think the emergency fund is very subjective to the individual level. Personally, me, where you save 4 months, I've actually saved 6 months of expenses. So, like you said, right, like rent, food, stuff like that is an absolutely must. There's a lot of people out there that say that you should follow a specific way. It's very subjective on how you follow your own path, but having that emergency fund, I think, is the first step to actually being financially successful, because you're able to manage on your own and not have to rely on other people for this. um, Fortunately for me, and I think a lot of people out there, I do have my parents as a backup, but not a lot of people do have that backup. And personally, me, I don't like to call onto my parents to ask them, say, hey, can I have some money to pay off rent, or to pay have food, or to have food. I want to be self-reliant, and I think a lot of people out there have the same goal, a mindset. So like you said, right? 4 months is plenty. Like, yes, definitely, but I personally like having 6 months on my own end to be able to say I can be okay and I feel comfortable. Also, like emergency funds is one thing, but another thing that you can start doing also when you get your first job is 401k investing, actually. So generally, most companies out there offer a match, whether it be like if you contribute 10%, will give you 5%. Companies love doing that, and I think that is like the smartest way to build wealth, because you're getting your hands a little bit dirty with the market. And I think like invest at least investing to the company match. Well, like if they say if you invest 10%, you will invest 5. I think you should be matching that 10%, because it's free money from the government. It's free money from the company. So that's definitely, I think, one of the best ways to actually build wealth within when you get that first job. So I think that's an important thing to account into your budget, actually, and that falls into the 20% savings debt repayment plan. So this could be accounted for, and this is all pre-tax money. That's the beautiful thing, right? Say hypothetically, and don't quote me on this, like you invest like $500 out of like or like sorry, you invest $200 out of $1,000 paycheck, right? You might get back $500, but if you invest nothing, you might get $600 back. So you're actually getting more value for your money by doing this. So I would love to hear from your own experiences if that's the same case with you, if you agree on that.
Yes, yes, I completely agree. And basically, what I'm doing with my 401k is that I'm
Hmm.
investing up to the limit. The limit is like 22, a bit more
I
than
think it's 23,000 this year.
22,000.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
23,000 this year. So yeah, I'm
Hmm.
investing to up to the max. Just it's essentially I want when I when I grow old to be able to have some money to live,
Hmm.
and building of a healthy 401k is a good way to do it. Uh, with also the additional bonus that your company is also contributing to it when you are. So yes, I
Hmm.
love this way of investing. Maybe we can go a little bit deeper on explaining like the just like the basic of why it's interesting to invest instead of, let's say, keeping your money
Yeah,
under the
definitely.
mattress.
Initially, when I started with my first job, right, I would do the company match, which I don't remember off the top of my head. And I truly didn't understand the value of money until after the pandemic when inflation had occurred. And I had a lot of money in savings, and I never saw that money actually increase over time. Whereas I saw my own investment portfolio was increasing maybe like, let's say hypothetically 20%, like my investment portfolio had increased. And my investment portfolio at the time was my 401k. I'm like, shoot, wow, there's a lot of advantages to doing this. I realized then that like I should be investing a lot more into my 401k because it's pre-tax money. It's money that you can use in your retirement, and you have a better lifestyle, like you had said as well. You can relax a lot more. So, like you, I've also matched my. I've gone to the full extent of maxing out my 401k. And to be honest, I made this mistake last year, but your company match is not to the full extreme. Doesn't contribute to the employer total employer contribution. And what I mean by that is that, say if you the company will give you $5,000 at the end of the year. So say this year, for hypothetically 23,000 is the max, 5,000 is what a company contributes. You don't need to contribute $17,000 is not your limit. $23,000 is actually your limit. So I
Yeah.
would say you personally should be giving 23,000, and if you're getting $5,000 from the company, that's 28,000 right there. So you can go up to that full limit when it comes to that. So I think the benefits of investing is that your money is increasing with inflation. So this way you are able to have money in the market, and your value of your money is constantly growing with how the market is performing.
Yeah, I agree. So going back to inflation, so like the principle of it is that, let's say today, if you want to buy some cheese, it would yeah, I'm French, so if you if you want to buy some cheese, you will, maybe it will cost you like $5. Okay, but let's say in 10 years you want to buy the exact same cheese, maybe it will cost you, even instead of $5, 7 or 8 bucks. Meaning that if you keep those $5 under your mattress, expecting to buy a piece of cheese in 10 years with those $5, in fact, you won't be able to buy it because the cost of the cheese is going to be higher than it actually is. But if instead of just keeping it in under your mattress, you invest it in like whatever stock in the S&P 500, then those $5 that you invest, maybe they will gain some value. And so instead of $5 in your bank account, you're going to have 10. So then you're going to be able to buy the cheese that you want and maybe even more. So that's basically what inflation is. It's just that the money that you have right now in your bank account, if you do not invest it, then it's not going to have as much value in 10 years, 20 years as it has now. So that's why it can be interesting to invest. And that's personally the reason why I invest, because I did the math and I was just
it's a
like, yeah,
it's a no-brainer.
yeah,
It's a
it
no-brainer,
makes
right?
sense. Yeah. And so maybe we can go into a little bit. So we've mentioned a lot like those three pools of just so wants,
Hmm.
needs, savings. Um, but basically everything that you can do with your money is spending it, meaning that you either spend it on some investment, you spend it on some wants, you spend it on some needs, and you spend it on just like whatever debt you need, you need to repay for. And so you have either expenses or investments. So I love this example of, let's say you want to buy a popcorn machine. It can be an expense or an investment, depending on its use. So if you just want to eat some popcorn while watching Netflix on a Friday night, then you're not going to get any money out of your popcorn machine. So it's just an expense. It's a net negative on your balance. If you want to actually make money out of it. So if you want the popcorn machine to be an investment, then it means that you're actually spending money in order to acquire something that then you expect will give you more money in return. And it's called like an asset, quote unquote. And it can be either a cash flowing asset or an appreciating asset. A cash flowing asset would be, let's say I want to sell some popcorn on the at the farmers market on Sunday. So then I will send, I don't know, like 100 popcorns bags on Sunday, and so I will earn money. And so over time, it will offset first the expense that I had for buying the machine, and maybe if I skip to the game, if I stick to the game long enough, I will earn money thanks to this popcorn machine. That's a cash flowing asset. Then you have appreciating assets, which basically you buy because you think that later in the future you will have more money if you sell it. So if it's a super great popcorn machine, and the fact that I'm using it, it makes it like even better, better and better. And maybe in 1 year I will be able to sell it to somebody else for, I don't know, $300 instead of $200. Then it's an appreciating asset and you made money out of it. And basically everything that you do with your money is either spending it as an expense or an investment. For instance, cash flowing asset or appreciating asset. And I also like the fact that I see investing in myself as an investment, as an appreciating asset, meaning I am an appreciating asset.
Oh, I
Do you see
do.
what I
I love
mean?
the analogies that you're dropping, and I think you're absolutely right. Like, you as a person are constantly growing and you're learning, right? And you are an appreciating asset. So spending money on yourself is a very big thing that I honestly don't do enough, to be honest. And I see it people around me, like you do it, and a lot of my coworkers and friends do it. But I think that's a very good, big thing to say as well, right? Whatever X amount of money that you have, you should set a small chunk of it aside to spend on yourself, whether that may be hypothetically like a gym or an activity that you love to do, or doing going out and exploring the world. These are things that you should keep into account and have like like a some money on the side to be able to enjoy. I do want to go back to kind of like the investing side, right, Penelope? And like you said, right, both investments appreciate and gain value over time, right? And I kind of want to talk about like kind of like the hacks that you can be doing with your money in this, right? So 401ks are one of the ways that we can invest, and the value of money constantly increases over time. But another thing I would love to talk about is kind of like the Roth IRA. So my understanding of it is that with the Roth IRA, if you're making below a certain amount of money, I think it was around $145,000 as your annual salary, you're able to contribute up to $7,000 per in this year of 2024. And I think the beauty of this, right, and out investing in this outside of your own personal investments like Robinhood and stuff like that, is that you are not capital gains tax is not applied to this. So whatever money you are earn is all your money, and I think that's a very great thing to have, especially when you hit into that retirement age of 58 or 58 or in your early 60s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think that the moment I started to really understand what was investing, saving money, and so on, was when I looked at a chart which was basically explaining the different levels of just, so I have those liabilities, I have my rent that I need to pay, and so on. Then I want to save money. So just like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? It's just like my brain was all over the place. Just maybe it's easier if I keep everything in my bank account. I do not do anything and everything will be fine. But what we can do is link this very interesting graph to the show notes, because I think that it's definitely what helped me investing. My cousin just showed it to me, and I was just like, oh my god, everything became so clear, and they are explaining what's a 401k, what's IRA, Roth IRA, and so on, because definitely we are not investment experts. It's the way we do it, the way we understood it, but yeah, we are not investment
No, we're
experts.
not. And honestly, we've also been learning, and we are still learning to this day about investments, right? Nobody, if anybody had the keys to the market, they would be like, they would be making courses and stuff like that. People are constantly learning how the market goes, and I think for our own personal investments, like we're still learning about it. I do want to say though, like I honestly did not know anything about investing till the beginning of last year, to be honest. And that's when I had decided to fully max out my 401k. And this is a 401k and starting a Roth IRA. And this is after 2 to 3 years in the workforce also. So honestly, it's never too late to start this, right? Not like you could start in your mid 40s, you could start in your earlies, but the best time is to start in your 20s because that's the amount of max you can get the maximum amount of money for. Sorry, you can get the most value for your money over a longer period of time. So I think that's the big key is to start early and to be able to factor that in. So whenever I look into investments myself, right, I set a certain amount of money aside for just investments. The best part is that 401k is taken pre-tax, so that's not ever in our bank account. But when it comes to post-tax, that's where your Roth IRA comes in. And that's where like you have to set a certain amount of money on the side to be able to put it into your 401 into your Roth IRA.
Yes, yes, and what's really been a game changer for me was to understand what we call the magic triangle of investing, which is that when you invest in an asset, uh, you need to balance between like three opposing, or at least like intertwined forces. The first one is the liquidity. The liquidity being, how easily can I access the asset that I have and convert it to cash if, let's say, I have to buy a car tomorrow. Because some assets, such as like corporate bonds and so on, can be a little bit harder to convert to cash rather than stocks in the S&P 500. So you have this first thing, which is liquidity. You have the second thing, which is the risk, which is, of course, when you invest in the market, sometimes stock can go down. For instance, during COVID, um, yeah, nearly all the stocks went down. So if you had money invested in those stocks, uh, you likely lost money. That's the risk, and then there is everything that relates to the return, which is how much money are you likely to make when you invest in this specific asset. And so your investment strategy is going to be very different depending on whether you want to have a little bit more risk, um, and then maybe the probability of having like a higher return is going to be higher, but then you can also have like more risk of losing everything. So it's personally, I would not say that I'm super risky when it comes that I like to have a lot of risk when it comes to investment, but I'm not playing safe as well. I'm just like, yeah, everything that I'm doing is just, I was gonna say science based, but like financial market based. Um, but it's a bit more complex than just like you invest in the S&P 500. But by starting with the just like investing in the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq, or whatever like big index that you have, an index is basically like a pool of stock that is already made for you. so that you don't have to worry about, oh my god, I want to buy like X shares of Apple, and then maybe like Y shares of Microsoft, and Z shares of Nvidia, like I don't know, whatever company. Index fund there, it's already like a pool. So when you buy like one share, quote unquote, in fact it's like 20% of this one, 10% of this one. It's already made for you, so it makes it easier. So I would say that maybe for starting, it's it's a good and easy way to do it. That's the way I started, and I'm very happy to do it. And I think that the trick is just to stick to it to the long term, because on average, financial market, when you go over it, like in the period of 7 years, they're always going to go up. But if you look at inside this 7 year period, at let's say like a 2 year period, maybe it can go down during this 2 year period. And what if you freak out, you decide to like put pull everything away from your investment and so on, keep it in your bank account? You're going to lose some of the benefits of just like that 7 year increase. So what I'm personally doing is that each 15 days, actually, I'm investing X amount of money into those stocks that I chose, no matter what. Okay, of course, if COVID is gonna hit, maybe I'm gonna reconsider my choice. But no, apart from like exceptional situations, I invest every 15 days on the stock that I chose. Um, and I think that I haven't looked at my balance on my investment portfolio since the last time I invested in it, which was 10 days ago. So I don't really care, but like on a day to day basis, whether you want to win money, because it does not matter. You're playing the long run. If you want to buy a house in, let's say, like 10 years, or you're saving for your retirement and so on, it does not really matter if you lost $5 today and won
Right. You're
$10 yesterday.
absolutely right, Penelope. This money is set aside for you not to look on a daily basis. This is money for your future, right? You set it off to the side. It's peace of mind for you and yourself that it's not touched up. And I loved how you brought up index funds. This is like a great way to, and honestly, it's a beginner's way to becoming like a millionaire, to be honest. Like, I followed this guy on YouTube called Dave Ramsey, and he did this study where he interviewed maybe 11,000 people, and 90% of them became millionaires just by their 401ks. So starting early from your first job is the key to building this wealth. And like I kind of want to touch upon like not only investing but also paying off your debts. And I know we're running a little bit short on time right now, but I do want to say that paying off your debts is like the biggest thing like possible. Getting it rid of it as early and as soon as possible is one of the biggest keys to success. um, right now that having debts on the side is never the best thing. It's not good for your credit. It's not good for your personal health because you constantly worry about it every day. But trying to get rid of that debt as soon as possible is truly the keys to becoming successful in your life. And like we discussed before, right? 50% is your wants, 30% is your needs, and then 20% is paying off your sorry, debts and savings. Is like if you can invest that chart is usually flexible, and if you put more like 5 to 10% more into paying off your debts, you'll be financially more secure going down the line. I personally follow this method, and I am trying to pay off my debts as soon as possible. My goal is like I think like 3 years or so to pay off all my student loan debt, and it's very optimistic of me, but I'm really trying to do that. So I would love to like recap on everything that we said, and I know we've talked a lot about investing and paying, and what you should be doing with what you should be doing with your debts. But Penelope, you want to start us off on like what we covered in our this episode? Maybe you can do like a 2 to 3 minutes quick spiel about it.
Yes. So I would say that the first thing to remember is that you have your debts, your wants, your needs, and your savings. And the art of earning money in your 20s is to balance between those four pools, those four buckets that you have for your life. And depending on the amount of debt that you have, you can invest a little bit more or less. As you said, starting to pay off the debt, your debt is maybe like one of the of the best thing that you can do, and then you can start investing using some elements that we discussed, such as either investing in the stock market, investing in yourself. There are several things that you can do, and we are not investment professionals to tell you exactly what to do. But when you get your first job, investing in your 401k is one of the best things that you can do, because you also get free money, quote unquote, for from your company who also invest in your 401k.
Absolutely. I think budgeting is like one of the best and most successful best things to have, and what makes most people successful is having an idea of where their money is going. 30% is going to rent, 20% goes to savings and budgeting, 10% goes to this, 5% goes to that. People that know where their money is going, usually it means that like they have an idea, a value of the money itself, and this truly what makes people successful in their lives. So I think this is like, personally me, I think these are the best ways to become successful in terms of managing your money and investing your money and etc. But I think I think that's what kind of our goal is, right? We all want to be multimillionaires, right? And there's no shortcut to becoming that. And like the most soundproof way of doing this is by investing, starting to invest now and watching your money grow over time. Over the next 40 years, right? You're in your early 20s, you're going to be retiring in your early 60s. This is the best way to watch your money grow, and eventually you will become that person, right? That you aspire to be, whether it be a multimillionaire or wherever. Like I think this is the best and soundproof ways of doing it.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
Thank you so much, guys. We love talking about this today, and we would love to hear your feedback on what we can improve upon.